Thank you, Madam Presiding Officer. I am walking to the lectern and wondering whether I should waste any of my time to respond to some of what was just said. Madam Presiding Officer, it is important for us to recognize that the Progressive Democratic Patriots has been in office since December. It is now April. And many of the issues that were just raised by the minority leader are not new issues. As a matter of fact, I am very, very happy that the goodly gentleman highlighted that policy about rental assistance, because that is a policy that we met in December. And that is a policy that was in place by the administration that he represents. So I am really happy you're the one who highlighted how that policy is. Maybe it's also important to identify the fact that the audit that is currently being done as it relates to some of these contracts that were given out just before election, Madam Presiding Officer, will highlight that many of those contractors were actually already paid. So if there is an issue with a road that is not finished, maybe a question needs to be directed somewhere else. But we will not speak about that, Madam Presiding Officer. The minority councillor asked several key questions, and I'm glad that she indicated that the minority council was willing to support the motion if these questions were answered. I am now a little bit concerned that the minority leader may not have known what the minority councillor was going to say. But I will answer the questions because they are important, pertinent questions. Thank you for those questions, minority councillor. The question about whether the client will go to one division and access all of the services is a one-stop shop kind of model that we hope to get to. But the reality is we need to be realistic with where we are now, and the steps that we need to take are steps that will be incremental as we go along. So the aim is to have the client walk into one division, and given the case conferencing mechanism that will be in place, so let's just say the client walks into social protection, and the client then needs housing-related support. Because that case conferencing is being done with the client may not need to go down to settlement to start the process, but may actually have their home assessed by the social worker without the client even going down to settlement to start the process, because the process has already started. Now, the reality is that we live in Trinidad and Tobago where you still need paper to do a lot of stuff. So there may be a situation where coming close to the end of the assessment, you may have to come and sign the final document or something at this specific division, but at least the process is way on the way and the client is being served. The question about psychosocial support, I'm not even sure what the question is. Psycho relating to the mind and the brain and so forth. Social relating to economics and so forth. Putting them together, psychosocial support. I am sure that most people understand what that means. It means if you're coming and you need food, rent, burial, counseling, all of those things, that is what we are talking about. The list of social support workers that we're talking about is one that is, we specifically use that term because we realize that within the various divisions, they use different words, they use different terms. So there are social workers in some divisions, there are probation officers in some divisions, there are therapeutic counselors in some divisions, there are guidance officers in some divisions. There are several different categories of people who provide psychosocial support. So we're using that term because we want to be all-encompassing. How regular will they meet? Now, this is something that I think the committee should be able to determine. Once a week, once a month, whatever it is, that is something that the committee can determine. And that goes to the next question. What do we mean by what happens when there is an emergency? Now, currently, the social support staff understand that when the client comes in, you do an assessment of the client, and that assessment of the client will then determine how quickly you need to provide the service. So obviously, if the people them house burn down, we know that you have to find somewhere for them to stay that night. But if the house ain't burned down, you may have a little bit of time to determine what is best and do what is best for the client. I have absolute confidence that the social workers and the social support staff that we have in Tobago know the difference and know how to do the assessment and know what kind of service is needed in an emergency versus a service that is needed urgently versus a service that is needed routinely. They have the technical capacity to do that assessment. That is why we are asking them to do that assessment. One of the questions that came up, and it's an important one, and it's one that's near and dear to my heart, is the issue of confidentiality. Confidentiality has been a sore point in Tobago. And it is important to understand that for us to be professionals, we have to take confidentiality seriously. There is a difference between anonymity and confidentiality, Madam Presiding Officer. Anonymity means that we do not know who the person is. It is a number that has been assigned. We don't know who that person is that we are treating with. That is somebody, a case that is anonymous. Confidentiality means that we understand that the information that this person has given us is near and dear to them and to us, and we must keep it in a particular way. We must not share it with individuals who do not have the right to know that information. Confidentiality is something that we are supposed to be dealing with continually, not just in case conferencing, but in every aspect. And to treat with confidentiality, we would have something known as informed consent. That term has two words in it. Informed meaning I have the information. Consent meaning I have told you that I am allowing you to share that information. Again, these are standard, Pastor Bain, standard operating procedures in social work. And it will apply in this situation. We come to this house, and maybe the minority leader, because we just spent 20 years of his party doing what they want, he is not familiar with the fact that the reason we come to this house at least once per month is to debate and agree on policy. The Tobago House of Assembly, this Tobago House of Assembly, is bringing to the people of Tobago an idea that was not birthed by me, an idea that came out of consultations with social support staff, with clients, who have all said this would really, really help us to get the services that our clients need to them quicker. That is how this came about. So we are here saying to the people of Tobago, this is what this THA is planning to do. Let us talk about the good of it, the bad of it, what we need to do, what we need to make better, what we need to improve, the questions, and I appreciate the questions, so that we can then go back to the Executive Council and then implement the policy that we agreed on here in the Assembly Legislature. Another question that may not have been asked, I can't remember if it was asked or not, going back to the confidentiality issue, relates to whether a person's information can just be shared. And we spoke about informed consent. And the thing about informed consent is that it can be given and it can be taken away. And because a person has not given informed consent does not mean that they will not be served. They will just understand that the seamless process that we have put in place will not apply to them because they are choosing to not use that seamless process that has been put in place. It does not mean that person cannot jump in the car, jump on a bus and go down to settlements or go over to education and go over wherever they want to go. We are not saying that they can't do that. What we are saying is that we want to make it easier for you. So if you allow us to do the case conferencing, we will bring all of these people together. And bringing them together does not have to be in a physical space. It could be in a virtual space to discuss what is best for this person and have them get the best service possible. So, Madam Presiding Officer, I am happy that we were able to sit and do the kind of assessment that's necessary thus far. I am happy that having spoken to many of these social support workers, that we've been able to come to this point. And I am happy that most, if not all, of the members sitting here agree that our clients deserve nothing but the best. And because we agree that our clients deserve nothing but the best, we are asking each and every one of you to support this motion. This motion that speaks to us treating with the individual at the center of our service provision. Treating with the individual because they deserve to be treated with respect, with efficiency, with effectiveness. And I'm asking, Madam Presiding Officer, that all of us sitting around this horseshoe agrees with the motion that reads, whereas COVID-19 has caused significant socio-economic challenges for individuals, families, and communities in Tobago due to its designation as a pandemic and the public health regulations put in place to safeguard citizens. And whereas the Tobago House of Assembly via the 5th schedule of the 𝐁.𝐘𝐢𝐬𝐫𝐚𝐞 Act is responsible for social welfare. And where the mandate of this new 𝐁.𝐘𝐢𝐬 executive is to make Tobago the greatest little island on the planet via sound policies and the execution of people-centered programs. Be it resolved that the 𝐁.𝐘𝐢𝐬 utilize a whole-of-government approach to its distribution of social support to those in need in Tobago, using a case conferencing model to treat with all clients requesting psychosocial support at the various divisions. And be it further resolved that a committee of social support staff from each division be convened to create the policy that guides how this process is implemented by June 30th, 2022. Madam Presiding Officer, I so move.